All right, we are live for another episode of Tempest Rising. I think this is episode 74, and it's called Return to Oz. So this week's episode has absolutely nothing to do with the film Return to Oz, which happens to be the scariest kids film ever. Those wheelie things, between those and the heads that are in the cupboards, that film scarred me for life, and it's terrifying. But anyway, today is about a return to a simpler way of life. I was talking to my partner the other night, and we've both observed that there's kind of a shift between people at the minute. I've observed that a large number of people are seeking a simpler way of life, and they're kind of going back to the old-fashioned way of doing things. It's almost like people are starting to separate off. There's those who want to be all about the future and the technology and this, that, and the other. And then there's those who are simplifying and spending a lot more time outside, and then just taking pleasure from the simple things and finding a greater connection and a deeper sense of presence that we tend to lose when we're constantly surrounded by fast-paced living and just too much technology. And this is not a bash on technology. You know, it does so many wonderful things for us, and it's allowed us to create amazing advancements in all areas, and it does make life easier. But I think within that, we start to lose our appreciation for things. Sometimes the simpler way is more reliable as well. It's amazing to have heating in all of our houses, and now we can change the temperature in each individual room with an app when we're at work. We're not even in the house, we don't have to be there. But it does have its pitfalls, especially when things aren't working the way they should, because nothing's really built to last anymore. And I often wonder if the same can be said for people, because it seems like we're becoming weaker and less hardy, and despite that, we're all under greater pressure and stress. So that's not a good combination at all. I think there's a lot to be said for the old-fashioned ways of doing things, you know, going outside and chopping some wood and then lighting a fire to keep warm. It's not easier than turning your heating on, but I think it's a lot more satisfying, and we end up with a greater appreciation for the warmth that that fire gives us, which we can't say when we've just flicked a switch on to turn on the heating. And I'm not saying that we all need to go call Ben Fogle and escape to the wild and live in a tree house somewhere, but I think we need to be more mindful, because as we try to keep up with life and we keep adding more and more things to make it easier, it doesn't necessarily make life any better. And I think anyone who's done any kind of training, be that mindset or physical training, will tell you that the simpler you keep it, the better the results are. I actually saw a quote the other day from a famous strength trainer, and he said strength training is simply a case of repeating the same 20 exercises over and over again until you die. But that's what works. You know, it's simple things that we know are repeatable, are reliable, and they don't require anything fancy. You know, we do them. They're not necessarily easy, but they work. And the same can be said with modern life. You know, doing too much and creating this greater level of complexity in how we live only creates more stress, and we are not equipped to deal with that anymore. As life gets easier, it's actually getting harder for us. We can't keep up because that's not what we're built for. So sometimes simplifying is the answer. So there's a little question for you today. I'd have you consider where you need to simplify things in your life. What area of your life could you simplify? What could you take out? What could you go a little bit old school with? I've been doing it with my own training. I've been doing it with some of my morning routine stuff, just trying to make things as simple and as efficient as possible, rather than trying to do things that are way too complex and, you know, just not necessary. So take a look at your life and think about how you can simplify it, and then give it a go and just see how much better that is, what greater appreciation you have for the things that you're doing, and just how easy, well, not necessarily easy, but how much better things are. Let me know in the comments, and then we'll be back next week for another episode. So until then, have fun doing your Christmas shopping, and I'll see you soon.